You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast. After all these years, still the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Inside the Black and Gold. I'm Brendan Wysell.
Sam Jane.
And Michael Howes.
And this week we are joined by a future member of Maryland's secondary, Sean Johnson. This week we are joined by future Maryland cornerback, Sean Johnson, and current senior at Archbishop Spalding. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Well, let's take it back a couple months. What was your commitment process to Maryland like, and why did you decide to come to College Park?
I would say really just like thinking over like where I was previously committed to, and when I went up there for practice, just seeing like all my old teammates and stuff like that just made me, like, I would say, really think about my decision, especially for my family wise, because it would be way cheaper just because like only a 30-minute drive. So that definitely played a big factor, I would say.
You mentioned some of those former teammates, obviously Malik Washington, quarterback for Maryland this past season and for future seasons. What's your relationship like with him, and how excited are you to join him as well as some of the other Spalding guys in College Park?
Yeah, I would say we have a great relationship. Our parents are like best friends. His sister goes to Spalding now, so I like take her home some days from school. So yeah, I would say we're pretty close. Known him for like 5 years now. So.
How did that relationship between you and Malik obviously start, and then how did your families become close?
I would say it definitely started with football. I was a freshman, he was a sophomore. I feel like he was a quarterback of a team, so he definitely, like, I would say, took me under his wing, just trying to be a leader and stuff like that. And I would say our family, our moms got close probably just because of football and just like tailgates and stuff like that. She had like started to go over there for like Sunday dinner and stuff, and that's when it just really became like best friends.
There's obviously been a pretty big movement from people from Spalding coming to College Park, with a part to do to Coach Kyle Schmidt, who obviously just left head coach there to come work at Maryland as a tight ends coach. Can you speak to kind of the pathway between Spalding and Maryland, and why you decided to be one of the many people who've made that journey?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, as long as I know, it started like a long time ago. I would say just based off like what they tell us, like, and really it's just based on like being able to keep playing with your teammates and just like knowing that you have y'all bond, and like the culture will automatically be better based off like the bond y'all have had since high school. So yeah, even like Coach Schmidt joining the staff, that's also like a huge. It's really good. I mean, I've known him, like, it's kind of crazy that my high school coach is going to be like on the same staff as me. So yeah.
When did you first hear that he was joining Maryland? My guess is that you committed to the Terps obviously before he did, right?
Yeah, I definitely heard after I committed, but I heard like maybe, I don't know, 2 months ago, a month ago, something like that.
So did he tell you guys, maybe some of the guys from Spalding who were coming to Maryland before it got out?
Yeah, we had like a meeting like in our pack, like our facility, like in the school, and he was like, "Yeah, moving on. Like, I respect everything that y'all did for me. Like, he was just saying like I wouldn't be in this position without y'all," and I was just like, "Yeah."
What was your reaction to, having your high school coach, obviously kind of, you guys are on the journey together now to Maryland. He obviously went here, but, his re-entry into coaching at Maryland, how exciting is that for you?
Yeah, I would say definitely just based on like me making my decision to switch to Maryland, and then just him getting hired there was just definitely boosted like how I felt, just realizing like God works in mysterious ways and he doesn't make any mistakes.
Before we get back to the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst to the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey Dog to the DMV, featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, served with handmade toppings including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And don't miss their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegan dogs as well as gluten-free buns. Shout out gluten-free buns, because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people a hot dog is a sandwich. All right, now here is more Under the Shell. Absolutely. I want to talk a bit about your football journey, specifically, obviously a very successful career at Spalding. Not a lot of losing when you were there. What's it kind of like when you're such a powerhouse school in high school, winning 4 straight state championships?
Yeah, I would say it's really amazing, to be honest. I feel like everybody wants to win, but I would say Coach Schmidt just really like touched on like just not getting complacent with us. Like I think that's what like kept us winning and just winning games and like not like taking our foot off the gas basically.
So for you, athletically, you weren't one of the guys who was able to join Maryland, for that spring semester and graduate early. So what has your training looked like as you're still a senior in high school, but also obviously joining Maryland in the summer?
Oh yeah, I would say I work out with my high school coach. He was a defensive coordinator. We work out probably like 4 times a week, and then I go to a trainer named Myron. He trains a bunch of like UMD guys 5 times a week too. He trained like Stephon Diggs, Trayvon Diggs. He trained a bunch of good players.
Some of those household DMV names. Is your training look like in the offseason? How much of it is performance, trying to get better in the gym, but also how much of it has been on the field?
Yeah, I would say just try and balance it out, just like with the gym, also in the field, but also like learning plays, like film study, like just getting on Zoom, trying to learn plays as much as I can before I get there.
What does that specifically look like, the process of trying to learn plays and get into the system while you're obviously still taking high school classes and have that part of your lifestyle as well?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's football at the end of the day, but I feel like it depends on what position you play, like safety. Like you gotta make all the checks and stuff. It's just basically just getting it in my brain, just like make sure I remember it and stuff like that. Just like taking a test, basically.
What are you looking forward to most when you step on campus at Maryland, specifically from a football perspective?
I would say just getting to meet all the guys. To be honest, the dudes that I haven't met, and really just all the coaches that I haven't met. To be honest, I feel like I'm ready to work, and I feel like we have a chance to do something great.
How much growing up, obviously from the DMV area, how much growing up did you, follow Maryland football? Were you at games? Were you just aware of the program?
I would say I was just aware of the program. I wasn't really that big of a college football fan when I was younger. I was more like NFL. But yeah, I've always like known Maryland football and stuff like that.
In the past couple of years, when you've been looking at schools, have you become more of a college football fan?
Yeah, most definitely. I would say I'm definitely more of a college football fan now than NFL.
Are there any guys who've had, successful college careers, maybe recently either at Maryland or around the country that you look up to or kind of model your game after?
Um, Safety wise, I don't know about anybody from. I mean, there is a bunch of good dudes from the DMV that play safety, but none that I would really say that I like watch like that. To be honest.
Yeah, it's fair. I just know that Maryland, in the past 5 or 6 years has had a very strong tradition of getting guys,
Yeah, I know. I
in the
know they had a
cornerback
bunch
safety
of
room to,
DBs like
yeah,
Dante
getting
Trader,
to
Dante Banks, Jacorian, I think that's his
low
name.
grade, a lot of them, yeah.
Tareeb Still. I know a bunch of them guys. Yeah, I talked to Dante Trader a little bit. I only because he went to McDonough. We played them a lot. We played them every year because I know he used to play lacrosse and I played lacrosse too. And I was just asking him like how hard it is to play lacrosse and football in college. Basically, that's it. Yeah, though.
Yeah, no, he has such a super interesting story. Obviously, was in the NFL last year, so
Yeah.
shout out to him. He former member of this podcast or former guest on this podcast as well. Speaking specifically at Maryland, we talked about Kyle Schmidt as a coach, but what's your relationship like with Loxley and kind of what have your interactions with him been like?
Yeah, I would definitely say he's a very smart guy, a leader of men. But yeah, I think he's a great dude. I mean, I feel like it's more than just football. He's just like trying to create men and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he's a great dude.
We talked about some of the Spalding guys earlier, but how much were they kind of trying to recruit you as well? Obviously, a lot of them had probably played with you for a couple of years, specifically like Malik. Obviously, you played a lot of time with. How much was he kind of in your ear, like come back and play together and come play at Maryland with me?
Yeah, I would say he definitely wanted me to go there, but it wasn't like nothing like too crazy, like to pressure wise. But yeah, I feel like I was definitely influenced by my older teammates.
What specifically, maybe last year were they telling you about Maryland, things that they liked, things they didn't like, and why you should join the Terps?
It was nothing really that they didn't like. It was just like basically like they're young, they're building something special, and they just keep the path going from Spalding to Maryland. I was just like, all right, yeah, that's what's up.
Very well. Well, we appreciate your time and look forward to watching you on the field in College
Yes,
Park. So,
sir.
Sean, thanks for joining us. We'll keep it right here with some football news. The coaching staff has been finalized. Mike, I know you were all over some of these stories, except today, the coaching, he finalized the coaching staff, but it actually shifted a little bit today. Break down what happened today.
Right, so Chili Davis last week was promoted to special teams coordinator. A week later, today, it's announced that he's going to be joining the Vikings in a similar role. So interesting for the Terps that it looked like they got all their eggs in a basket last week, announced the coaching staff and what that would be looking like last week. And then today, boom, another coaching change. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Terps kind of recoup after that loss. Although, I mean, special teams, it is important. I think there are replacements out there for that coaching position. I think the coaching hire that we're most interested by is Randy Starks, former Terp. Brendan, just tell me about the resume of this guy.
Yeah, I sent out a tweet last week. So Randy Stark's news broke during one of my classes, and I was locked in on this news. He has probably the most interesting backstory of a coach maybe ever. Let me break down what happened. So he stopped playing in the NFL. He had a very successful career with Maryland and in the NFL. He goes and becomes the defensive line coach for the New York Jets, but just for their training camp in 2017. Then he moves to the Dominican Republic, and at an international high school, he works as the international coach of basketball. Then he goes to become a head football coach in Manassas Park High School in Virginia. And then he kind of makes his way into the college game. He's an assistant coach at LaGrange High School, and then an assistant coach at Bakersfield College, and a consultant at California State University, Fresno. Those are all pretty much in 2023 at all three of those jobs pretty much. And then he says, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm not going to be in the U.S. anymore. And he goes to the Lanesborough College in the United Kingdom and is an assistant football coach, American football coach at Lanesborough College. Then he becomes the head football coach at Eureka College. You'd have to fact check his record there, but I don't believe he had more than 4 wins. And then in January 2026, yes, January, he became an assistant coach at USF. And then no more than a month later, he took the job at Maryland, as Mike was saying, to become the defensive line coach, which I would argue has the potential to be the best group for Maryland. I'd be surprised if they're not. The defensive line has a chance to win Maryland some football games. What a fascinating hire. His resume, I don't know if it speaks for itself, but it definitely speaks.
Brendan, are you out of breath yet? Just reading all his experience?
I want to talk to this. You could probably interview this guy for 4 hours just about the international basketball coaching he did.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what you said. He went 2-18, 2 seasons at D3 Eureka. So obviously not great. No prior Power 4 coaching experience. But you know, Maryland's betting on his pedigree. He was in the NFL for 12 years. Obviously, his career as a Terp was extraordinary. And he's going to be working with this loaded defensive line room. So the Terps are betting that, hey, this guy has experience. He knows what it takes to succeed on the D-line. He's going to be able to work with Zion Ely and develop him as a freshman. He's going to be able to make Zahir Mathis and Sidney Stewart take those next steps as sophomores.
You feel that confident in that?
I mean,
Mike's a believer in Randy. Shout out Mr. Stark.
I mean, that's what the thinking is I believe. I mean, obviously, like if I'm just looking at his resume and what he's done, and I saw what he did at Eureka, I would never hire this guy. But he also played in the NFL for 12 years and was a legendary Terp. So
I will say, when I looked at his LinkedIn last week, he's still at a USF picture. He's now got a Maryland headshot and a backdrop for his LinkedIn, but he still hasn't closed the fact that he still has it on his LinkedIn that he's working at USF. So I don't know what's going on.
Tough luck. Gotta update the LinkedIn.
Just to recap, there were a lot of coaching changes on the assistant side this offseason. So let's do a quick recap. So coaches that are entering the program. You got Kyle Schmidt, who will coach the tight ends, formerly at Archbishop Spalding. Randy Starks, who's in the defensive line. I guess you could say Chili Davis was in, but now he's also a part of that out group. Yeah, exactly. In, out. You don't really know.
I mean, Loxley poached the OC, the D-line coach. It's only fair that someone else gets poached from him. As they say, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
But when you take unloyal guys, that might happen.
Or when you're like Brendan and you're gluten-free, you can't have your cake and eat it.
Can't have your cake and eat it. Touche.
But also along with that group, Clint Trickett, probably the biggest offseason hire to come in as the new offensive coordinator. And then out, not a ton of coaches that actually really left. The ones that did, Corey Leggett, who left he was coaching the defensive line group. Luis Swaba, he's was the running back coach.
Who?
Good point, Michael. And then lastly, Pep Hamilton. He didn't leave, but he did change roles. He's now the he was the offensive coordinator, and now he's serving as a special assistant to the head coach. So that's a recap on.
I'm pretty interested to see what Pep Hamilton's contract is going to be this upcoming season, because he was on slate to make over $1 million this upcoming season. Now you got Clint Trickett in. I wonder if he's going to have two guys offensively getting paid over $1 million, Loxley, on his staff, or if Loxley maybe adjusted his contract to allow for this to happen. I'm very interested by that. We'll find that out pretty shortly.
Yeah. When do you think you'll figure that out? Actually.
What is it? They got to respond to you within 20 business days?
I think it's 10 in Michigan. I don't know I can't remember Maryland.
Feels like it's a little bit longer here.
Yeah, probably about a month. Michael will get those back, and we'll report on them as soon as we do. Moving on from football, let's talk.
Wait, can I make one more football point?
Yeah.
I was supposed to get congratulations on Twitter correctly predicting which days will be family weekend and which days will be homecoming. I thought,
Michael, I knew
the whole presentation.
I was going to, but then I was hoping he would forget. Unfortunately, he did not. Brendan is essentially the quirky kid in high school that you meet, and he knows all the random facts. And when he predicts something right, it's not something that's actually important, but he did land on what would be the homecoming, the family weekend, and what was the third one be?
Military appreciation. I did not predict that. I would not have predicted that, so I'm glad I didn't. But
he did land on. And Brendan, tell us though, because the more important part, I think, even more so than predicting it, that was a big win for you. But huge. Maryland's kind of performance on those days has generally followed a trend. I mean, Maryland football in general has followed trends, but what would you say has kind of been the takeaways that you've gathered in your research about that?
Yeah, family weekend Maryland has not been great. I wrote an article about this a couple years ago now. They played Indiana and they won that game, which kind of broke the curse. They had Villanova that was not real. That doesn't count. And they lost family weekend this year. So they haven't been great on family weekend. They haven't been great on homecoming either. I remember talking to Emmett about this, who was our former editor on this podcast, and he was like, this is an interesting story, but the real story here is that Maryland football is just not good outside the month of September. And I was like, all right, touche. It's very fair. So once the fifth game of the year hits, which is usually family weekend, fourth game of the year, Maryland statistically is going to lose that game. But happy to get those predictions right. And as Sam said, I received hundreds, if not thousands, of texts thanking me for my fearless prediction.
This guy, bro.
Big J journalist over here. We love what Maryland College teaches us.
All right, well, you were saying enough about football. Let's carry on. All you, Sam.
Yeah, let's go over to actually men's basketball and less about the games, guys. I want to talk about a specific player. Maryland men's hoops defeated Washington, got a win, tight game, but they were able to pull it out. But the guy I really want to focus on, and the guy who I think has been the focus of the program the past month and a half almost, is Andre Mills. When this dude came in, he was kind of regarded as one of the least known transfer pickups I think that Buzz had this offseason. He redshirted at Texas A&M. Wasn't a super high profile recruit like Darius Adams. He was somewhat of a, I think, kind of unknown. But he's really put it all together here as Maryland's main focal point. Since 2026 started, he's averaging 13 points a game on 45% shooting. Those are pretty efficient numbers, and he's playing with the ball a ton. He's essentially, kind of dominating a lot of on-ball reps. He's been this team's primary scorer. He scored 39 points in a loss to Northwestern, played really well against Washington as well, capsulated that with an alley-oop dunk, but he had 10 points and accounted for Maryland's 10 of their final 13. So that's all to say, guys. I just want to ask, when you look at this roster, we've ripped it all year because it's not talented enough, and I think that's fair. I will say, Michael, you've been kind of on the Andre Mills train since the beginning as a piece that they should consider bringing back. Now, at this point, I think that's clear. But what role do you see him fitting in next year, and how just important and impressive has this stretch of hoops been for him?
I don't think he's going to continue as the primary scorer, the primary shot creator. I don't think that's a role that would be good for him long term, especially looking at next year's roster, you got Baba coming in, you got Darius Adams coming back. I think Andre Mills is going to be good to play off of those guys. He can hit a three. He's good off the dribble hitting a three. He's very good at driving. And I think when you add Baba into that mix, maybe Pharrell Payne is back too. I think playing off of all those guys is going to be a real strength for him. You kind of saw it in that past game against Washington too. It was a very inefficient outing for Mills. At the end of the day, he does score over 20 points, but it was a lot more inefficient than previous outings. I think when he just has other pieces around him to play off of, it's gonna look a lot better for Maryland next year. And I appreciate you for saying that I've been on the Andre Mills train, because I have been saying that. Like, everybody's like, wow, Andre Mills, keep this guy. I've been saying that for a couple months now. Come on.
I've been saying it for longer than you have. I think at the beginning of the year when I roll back the tape to the men's basketball preview, my schedule prediction was awful, but I did say that he'd be the guy that people would be least expecting to stand out.
You did.
And I think that's been true. Thank you. The way Maryland played against Washington is what I thought would be the recipe the whole season to win games. And it was kind of the first time we've seen them do it, which is play a very good game defensively, force Washington to be in some uncomfortable positions, affect the glass, and hold them under 65 points. Washington scored 60 and Maryland 64. So in a lot of other games this season, Maryland has let up 80 plus points. At the beginning of the Big Ten slate, they were letting up what seemed like 80 plus every single game. Same within the players era. Like in all those tournaments, there's the defense that I thought was really letting them down. And to me, that's what was the difference against Washington. We could break down the game a little bit. Some of the subbing is just like fascinating from the Buzz Williams perspective. GDP played 27 minutes. Diggy Coit played 7. If you told me that happened, I would have thought that someone tore their ACL, but that obviously didn't happen. Like, you never kind of know what you get going into a game with Buzz coaching and how he's going to have the defensive rotations. Yeah, Darius Adams played 9 minutes. It was a very weird game. But all that to say, like, this should have been the recipe for them to win games. Andres looked great, but it's just something they were not able to replicate enough throughout the season because they couldn't play defense well enough and they couldn't stop turning the ball over early in the year.
Yeah, definitely. I think Mills, I think you're both right? Like, I think Mills in an ideal role is probably like a third or fourth scorer type. But I also think that Brendan's point, his defense is going to get kind of back to that level I think we saw earlier in the year when he wasn't shouldering as much of an offensive load, right? Like, he was this team's, I remember that game. It was, I think, either their season opener or shortly after. He absolutely destroyed on defense. He was destructive. He got steals. He got deflections. Like, his role to me, and I made this comp earlier, was almost a Hakeem Hart type, but obviously more athletic. I think Mills probably creates his own shot a little bit better. Hart probably a bit of a better passer. But in general, I kind of see their role in a very similar irk, right? Like, knock down open perimeter shots, play as kind of your secondary ball handler, be a disruptive force on defense. Like, that's Andre Mills' ideal role to me. And I think he's suited to potentially play that next year.
He's kind of just like good Deshaun Harris-Smith in a way. Is that a bad comp?
I mean, yeah, but that's like just saying like, yeah, like just enhancing Deshaun Harris.
I mean, this is what DHS could have been for Maryland last year.
I mean, Mills is left-handed, right? Or am I?
Yep.
Left-handed, kind of big-bodied guard. I see what you're saying, B. And I think that this is the point, right? Like, that we're ultimately trying to make here. The thing that you should be focusing on the rest of the season is little nuggets, right? Like these, right? Like Darius Adams playing more comfortable in ball screens, continuing to kind of figure it out. Mills looking better and better as the season goes on. What do the potential bench pieces, guys that they'll bring back potentially next year, like what could that look like? And if you had to take a win from this season, I think probably the number one win is that you've maybe found your starting backcourt. You need to bring in another guard, but you at least have two pieces that you think you could look at and be like, hey, if they have to start games for us, like, that's fine. I don't think you want that. You want to go get another big time guard, I think, but at least they're players that you can look at for next year's roster and be like, hey, these are guys we'd be comfortable bringing back.
Do you guys think Miles Rice is here next year?
No.
No shot. He's been an abject failure this season.
Yeah.
And
Which, I mean, again, like, I think I said this before, but this is what Indiana fans said he was, and I don't think we should be surprised by the outcome of this. I was pretty high on him, especially after that Georgetown game. He looked like the best player on the court for Maryland, other than Pharrell Payne. Outside of that, he's done nothing. He's just done nothing.
He was really a huge bright spot in the Georgetown game. I went back and looked at his splits because to me it felt like he hadn't played in a long time, and I was wrong. Like he'd actually played in most games, but had just been effectively invisible. He's played in 17 games this year, and some of the more recent games, I mean, he played most games in January and hasn't played since February 1st. But to me, it seemed like he really hadn't played all the second half of the season. It was more that he was averaging like 15 minutes and scoring very, very, very rarely. Yeah, he really just never figured it out this season.
Yeah, no, it never really came together. Anyway, men's basketball, only a couple more games, guys. They're down to the final stretch. We'll keep
4 games left.
Yeah, we'll keep looking at there's not really like we can preview Nebraska and Rutgers this week. The Nebraska game will come out right as the day that we're releasing on Wednesday. So I wouldn't expect anything there. If I had to guess, Maryland finishes 1-3 to end the year, and then that would put them overall with a pretty dismal record overall, but also in Big Ten play. This team just, again, we can do a postmortem at the end, but if they were to finish 5-15, that's not great. It might keep them out of the bottom 4 of the Big Ten, but who knows? We'll take a look. Team who's vying for a top 4 seed. Maryland women's hoops dominates Purdue for their 5th straight victory. 6 Terps in double figures. Their highest scoring output, or 1 point shy of their highest scoring output, that is, in Big Ten play. The ladies team, it feels like, is playing their best ball of the season at the right time. They're going to have a critical stretch to end the year, guys, and we can quickly analyze where they stand in the standings. The top 3 seems like it's pretty secure at this point. You have UCLA, obviously cruising to a conference championship, Iowa, and then Michigan with 3 losses. Ohio State is like right on the border. If they win a few more games, they're going to lock it up. But the reason I say that the spot is open is because Ohio State plays Michigan and Michigan State to end the year. Those are 2 ranked teams, obviously. So it'll be a tight finish. Maryland still gets to play Northwestern and then Michigan on the road. So that's obviously a tough game. If they're not able to slide into that top 4, I would expect them to finish in the top 6, which is important. Because I think that Michigan State playing Ohio State, if they lose that game, it'll be tough for them to stay in the top 6. And then Minnesota as well. They have to play Illinois on the road, which could be a tight one. So all that to say, there's still a lot to be decided, Brendan, in the Big Ten standings. But if you had to best guess where this team will finish, and just like overall, I don't really think it matters a ton where they're at in the Big Ten tournament. How confident has the pendulum swung back to where this team is compared to what we were saying about them, a month ago?
It's been a complete switch. I mean, I think I said it pretty much 4 weeks ago. I didn't think this team was going to host a game in the NCAA tournament. That is obviously no longer the case. They're definitely going to host. But there was a stretch there for, those 4 games, UCLA, Iowa, Washington, Oregon, where they just did not look as competent as they did at the beginning of the year. And their issue was, playing a very strong 40 minutes. They would come out, look very good, kind of like they did in that Washington game. And then as the game went on, they wouldn't be, they really just couldn't hit clutch shots, and they were turning the ball over in those key situations. And so they've really reversed that. They have, as I said, they haven't put themselves in as many close games, and they've relied on balancing out the score. We talked about it with Mir McLean last week. It's pretty much what happened for the Purdue game as well. Mir McLean, 11 points. Kendall Walker, 18, her best game of the season. Rainey Wilson, 11. Diversifying that scoring has been what's worked for them. I don't know exactly where they're going to finish in the Big Ten standings, which will place them in the tournament. But the biggest thing for them is they really want to be on the side of the bracket that avoids UCLA. UCLA is probably going to win the Big Ten tournament. I think that's pretty clear. They've been one of the top 3 teams in the country the entire year. Maryland got blown out by UCLA. But legitimately, Maryland could make it to the final of the Big Ten tournament if they're not on the same side as UCLA. And then from there, heck, I mean, I wouldn't expect them to beat UCLA, but if this Maryland team gets to a final of the Big Ten tournament, that would be a huge success. Mike, what are your thoughts?
I think you missed the other big thing for this team, and it's just stay healthy. Stay healthy at this point, like you've had so many injuries. It's been a war of attrition so far this year. It feels like it's kind of died down now. It's been a little bit more healthy. I know Ozzy Mamadou, she had that injury. Brenda, did she play against Purdue? She did not.
She did not play. She was in street clothes.
Right. So, she's had a couple impactful performances for them this year. You hope to get her back in the Big Ten tournament. But outside of that, just stay healthy. And hopefully you're a top 16 team and you get to host the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we got for women's basketball. They have 2 games left, Northwestern and then Michigan. I would expect them to go 1-1 there. I just think beating Michigan on the road is going to be a very tough task. They did it against Ohio State, but I think Michigan will take it to them in that game. And then it's tournament time. So that's what we got on women's basketball. Before we get into lacrosse, because baseball played today and it was such an absolutely wild game, Mike, break down what happened for baseball over the weekend against Louisiana and then what happened today against Delaware in a game that did it just end? We're recording at 10 o'clock. I think the game just ended. Started at 4. Might have just ended.
It has been a crazy 4-game stretch for these Terps. Some might even say that today's win over Delaware was season-saving for them. They entered the series at Louisiana 3-1. That one loss coming in their series opener at UNC Wilmington. And then they get swept by Louisiana. 2 heartbreaking losses for the Terps. One on Friday night, one on Sunday. It followed the script that many Terps fans have grown familiar with the past few years of Dirty Terps baseball. But then today, they beat Delaware 15-4. It took all 9 innings. Maryland actually led by 5 runs heading into the 9th, and then heading into the bottom frame, they were down by 1. But Paul Jones hits the walk-off single for the Terps. A lot of people online are saying that was a season-saving win for Maryland. They would have gone down to 3-5 if they lost that. Obviously, I mean, the slate ahead these next few games aren't that terrible, but you don't want to lose a game to Delaware that early in the season, especially a Delaware team that's now 1-7. I mean, if they lost that, it would have been bad. I know Sam has some thoughts about the Dirty Terps.
Mike,
so I mean, the fact that you're calling a win over Delaware,
this is absurd.
I mean, this is levels of Matt Swope glazing that we haven't seen on the podcast before. I mean, just absolutely insane to be sitting up here after a win over Delaware. Who, check it, Brendan. The Delaware baseball team is abysmal. All right. They're called the.
Can you name anybody on the Delaware baseball team?
They're called the Blue Hens. First of all, second of all. Can I name to you what they've lost? They were 1 win so far this season. They lost 13-1, 14-7, 9-2, 10-0, and then 7-3.
So who did they lose to, Sam? That's more important for me.
Mississippi State Valid. Elon.
Woof.
They did beat, clap it up for Delaware, fellas. They beat the LaSalle Explorers, so that's a big win. Quality boost for
enough talk about Delaware. Let's start with the Louisiana series first of all.
Come on.
That is a good Louisiana team, and Swope said it post game. This is something he said last year. I bet 1,000,000 times that they were the better team in 2 of those games, and they probably should have won it, and they didn't. I would agree. It is concerning, though, to see the bullpen management issues continuing into
Logan Hastings, man. Logan Hastings.
Yeah, I mean, Logan Hastings tossed 7 2/3 scoreless innings Sunday, and they were leading by 3 heading into the 9th Friday night. Like, you could have sent that guy out, get 3 strikes.
So that relates to my point because it's about coaching.
Okay.
And here's my takeaway. I think that Matt Swope, at the time of his hiring, has been the most disappointing coach in the 4 years that we've covered Maryland athletics relative to the expectations they had when he was hired. He or she was hired.
What would you say the expectations were?
I think the expectations were to be legitimately competing for Big Ten championships, to continue what Rob Vaughn had brought in, to continue pumping out and producing pro-level players, to have a program and a team that was in contention, and if not in contention, potentially winning NCAA tournament games, because this guy was hailed as, there was no coaching search, right? There was no like, hey, let's do an external look. Let's try to find a guy who maybe we can bring in. This was promoted as, this could be a potential coaching upgrade, people were saying. I remember when Rob Vaughn left. And the fact of the matter is that Matt Swope has not won a lick that's worth any sort of legitimate.
He won the 6 most games in program history his first year.
And what did they do with that in the Big Ten?
This is like saying Maryland was 7 games away, or 7 plays away in football from being 7-0.
I don't look. It's clear. Swope is an offensive guy. That is his bread and butter. That's what he's good at. I don't know if maybe he needs to hire another coach to make these bullpen decisions. I don't know if, he needs to just hand the keys to Jimmy and make those decisions. There's something wrong with the bullpen management, and you can tie that back to the struggles of the past 2 seasons, and that's exactly why they lost against Louisiana too. Also, just to mention, while Hastings is going crazy on the mound in that Sunday game, the offense cannot score. And that's another issue that we've seen these past few years, is when the pitching is going, the offense seems to just kind of shut down for no reason sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. But Brendan, I want to know what you think about this tape, because we obviously have a guy who's so close to the program and I think has covered it for so long that he's obviously able to provide a lot of insight. But I want to know from somebody sitting kind of more in my shoes, is like, I watched the baseball team, I read about them, but I'm not, I didn't cover them. From my perspective, this guy, Matt Swope, relative to expectations, has massively underperformed. And now the season is still very...
I would agree. He's underperformed so far to expectations. At the same time, Rob Vaughn did not make the postseason his first 2 years as a coach.
Rob Vaughn left the program in a way healthier state than what Rob Vaughn took it over as.
Yeah, I mean, that's not true. Rob Vaughn took over a great program under John Sheff that made 2 super regionals.
Rob Vaughn left a program for the first time they hosted an NCAA tournament game. He had multiple pros on a roster that potentially Swope was able to take over. I think there's no question.
I mean, Matt Shaw was gone. Luke Schliger was gone.
Definitely.
Nick Caruso was gone. I mean, name the guys that were gone.
But I'm saying they'll like,
okay, we're getting Eddie Akopian and Elijah Lambros. Here's your guy. Chris Akopian, but Maryland doesn't have the money to compete with a Texas A&M to keep him.
I'm saying, though, when Swope got there, he had those type of guys. He had, Who
says he doesn't have those guys on the roster now? I mean, Ryan Costello has 5 homers right now.
I mean, but this is all straying away from the point that I'm trying to make.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that when Matt Swope took this program over, fact or not, Rob Vaughn had it in arguably the highest peak of Maryland baseball in terms of the health of the program.
You can argue that, yes.
Fact or not, he has not matched that level of production in any of his seasons, including his first season when he had you could say, solid first year.
I would agree. Rob Vaughn didn't do it either in his first 2 years.
Fact or not, though, now we're heading into year 3 where Rob Vaughn did have a significant uptick in record and performance, and it looks like this Maryland baseball team has the exact same issues that have plagued it for the first 3 seasons of Matt Swope's tenure.
First two.
Well, okay, sorry, including this season.
Okay, yeah.
You want a cup of coffee?
My point is that he has underperformed, and the reasons he's underperformed have been the exact same reason every single season. And I think that is an indictment of coaching.
Something needs to change. They need to figure out the bullpen. They need to figure out how to do it, because
I think they need an overhaul of how they approach pitching.
Well, I don't know about overall. I mean, the offense.
I said overhaul.
Of the pitching. So what do you mean? Fire Jimmy Jackson? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it's necessary.
Let's say it.
No, it's not. I mean, Jimmy's a friend of the pod. I would never advocate for Jimmy to be fired. That it's a friend of the pod. So watch what you're saying there. I am saying, though, that I think they need to look at what they're doing when it comes to rotation, with the transfers they're bringing in on the pitching side, what type of development they're focusing on, because it is an issue constantly. I think they need to try to figure out why the hittings goes through such, trials and valleys of, big run scoring days, but then also 2 or less runs another night.
Agreed.
And to me, I we've been talking a lot, but B, what do you think about my take? I fully stand behind it, and I don't think that it's like egregious to say it. Because yes, like Michael Locksley has been also disappointing, but relative to expectations when he was hired, I would argue there were significantly higher goals than Matt Swope had when he got here.
I think it's really tough because of this fundamental fact, which is that he took over the program in a place when Maryland baseball was very good. But historically, if you look at it, Maryland baseball has not been this incredible thing. They hadn't won a conference championship since, wait, 1971. So they were not historically a very good baseball program. They didn't have that many winning seasons. They were kind of always right around that 500 mark, with some seasons better, some seasons worse. But the issue that Matt Swope ran into is that they had been really, really, really strong when he took the program over. And that's why the expectations were so high. So I do see what Sam is saying there. There's not been another coach that's been hired. I mean, Buzz Williams maybe, but there hasn't been another coach that's been hired while we've been here in the last 4 years.
Oh, I'm not even talking guys that have been hired since we've been here. I'm saying the overall plethora of coaches. So like Locksley is included in this. Brenda Freeze is included in this. Like Willard is included. He was, I guess, hired when right as we were getting to school. But I still think that the argument, potentially stands.
Look,
if you're looking at every coach, I don't think.
Yeah,
you have to think about. Okay, if you look at it in a vacuum, if you look at it in a if you look at it in a vacuum of how coaches have performed, and you don't think about like what sports actually matter to people, then you might be right. But like then, if you look at it how society actually operates, then football is the answer. But if you look at it in a vacuum of like how actual sports teams have performed,
but I think people care about the baseball team. Like,
a lot of people care about.
There's a lot of Dirty Terps faithfuls, if you will.
We have one on the pot.
But there are way fewer of those than there are.
100%. Yeah, Locksley was the obvious answer. I just wanted to make the case that I think Matt Swope deserves to completely have a chance to, like, he's a Maryland guy. He's turned down other offers to work elsewhere. Like, he's a dude who should get his chance, right? And I don't think that I'm not saying this to be like, this is program defining and he'll never be successful here. I actually think he has a good chance of doing really good things here. But
everything you've said the past 10 minutes is the opposite of what
100%. You're not letting me finish. But the first 2 seasons and now the beginning of this year is not good enough for the program. Not good enough.
Look, I think the coaching staff they have in place, I think Matt Swope is an incredibly smart guy who knows offense. I think Jimmy Jackson, you look at the track record of the pitchers that he's gotten to the MLB, even look at Kyle McCoy getting drafted last year after coming back of Tommy John. He's a very smart guy. I think they have good people in place in this program. They just got to figure out the bullpen management. And I don't know if maybe they've got to switch who's making those decisions, get someone else on the staff.
Problem is, Michael, whoever they bring out of the bullpen stinks.
Yeah, I mean, that's also the issue. And it looks like one of their better young relievers today, Case Gibbs, hurt his elbow. So that's even better.
Yeah. Anyway, enough talk about Maryland baseball. Let's move.
So fired up over Matt Swope's Terps.
Let's move to another underwhelming team here in the early portion. And guys, I hate to say it, but the men's lacrosse team doesn't look great. I know these are tough teams. I know that we've kind of talked about how early season losses for them, typically haven't mattered, but this is the first time in a while that Maryland's started in the position that it is. Brendan, take us through what's happening with the Terps.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things going on here. I think the first thing to remember, and you kind of alluded to it, is that, hey, the last time Maryland had a losing record was 2016. They didn't lose again that season until the NCAA tournament game. So there's precedent for playing very difficult teams and then, not, playing very different teams at the beginning of the year, not starting off super strong, and then, ending up being successful. But they did not look very strong against Princeton. And I think what it kind of came down to is a very similar issue they had against Syracuse, which was getting off to a strong start in that game and continuing it through the second quarter and beyond. It's the issue that, or the fundamental thing that they've leaned on while Tillman's been the coach here, which is that if they allow more than 10 goals, they're probably not actually going to win, or it's going to be much harder for them to win. In the past 2 games, they allowed 11 against Syracuse. They allowed 13 against Princeton. Some of that comes down to defense. Some of that comes down to goalkeeping. As we said, Rupel hasn't looked that strong. He allowed 13 goals and just made 8 saves. Those performances from him haven't been as good. If McNaney's in net, he's obviously on staff for Maryland now, but he graduated. He was one of the best goalkeepers in Maryland across history. If he's in net, maybe these games go slightly differently. But at the end of the day, Maryland, with less than a minute left, I think they had chances to tie this game and send it to overtime. They got a shot off very late that, just was off the mark. This Maryland team had a legitimate chance to win this game. Ball didn't end up going their way in the final moments, but it wasn't really down to that at the end. Eric Spanos had 4 goals. Leo Johnson had 2. Not quite as much production as I would have thought out of Urksa. I believe he did not score. He did not score against Princeton. So some of those performances offensively that you thought would carry the Terps have not been as strong, but I think it comes down to what I said, so they allow more than 10 goals.
Yeah,
sorry, Braden Urksa had 1 goal. But
shout out to Urksa. Love the guy.
Shout him out. Shout him out.
But I do think, like you said, B, these have been 2 close losses, right? Like, the sky's not falling, nowhere close to. I do think that there could be some offensive issues that maybe plague this team. And I think the defense will need to ultimately carry it like it usually does with Tillman's squads. So they better figure that side out quickly. Let's move.
The thing is, if you want to get a marquee loss, they play one of the best teams in the country. They play Notre Dame this weekend. They have looked pretty solid to start the year.
Marquee loss? Are we saying they're falling to 1-3, B?
I don't. It's possible. They've looked very good. There was a bit of controversy. Notre Dame didn't stream their game at home against Georgetown. Some people are saying that so Tillman couldn't get the type of scouting he wanted to. Won't have that film. So who knows if that's why they didn't stream the game against Georgetown. But they've looked really, really strong offensively. They haven't really been in a close game yet, which could actually end up helping Maryland. But this Notre Dame team has been pretty damn good the past couple of years, and they're rolling into College Park. And it could get a 1-3 start would be tough, but it's definitely a possibility. That was the risk of playing such strong opponents.
What would they need to go in conference if they were to fall to 1-3?
The thing is, the losses they have are against what will probably end up being 3 of the top 8 teams in the country.
Gotcha.
3 of the top, likely. So, they could legitimately lose to Notre Dame, be 1-3, and then beat Delaware, Virginia, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Rutgers, Johns Hopkins. I think this team is talented enough to do that. It's not going to be easy. But at the end of the day, this Maryland team has a very legitimate shot to, win a Big Ten championship. The Big Ten has just gotten slightly better over the years. Every team in the Big Ten right now is either receiving votes or ranked. Maryland is, I believe, 12th after last week's ranking. They dropped a ton. So, they're obviously, I believe right now they might still be one of the top ranked teams in the Big Ten. I think Ohio State would be the highest ranked. That'll all shift as the season goes on, but I wouldn't be too scared yet about them missing the NCAA tournament, even if they drop to 1-3, just because their losses are all to such quality opponents, and I would expect them to win a lot of those Big Ten games.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what happens with the Fighting Irish. All-time series, Maryland 10, Notre Dame 9. They've played some seriously tight games. Last year's 11-10 win for the Terps. Prior to that, they lost 3 straight. Prior to that, they had won 3 straight. So potentially this could start or continue another winning streak for John Tillman and the boys. Let's move on to the other lacrosse team, the women's. They continue to play well. Win over St. Joseph's. Now the number 3 team in the country. They beat Georgetown 10-7 prior to. So they've won now 3 straight games. Or actually 4 straight.
4 straight, yeah. The Georgetown game was weird. Maryland went down 6-1 in the third. And then they went on, they scored 9. They went on a 9-1 run to end the game. I checked that box score when it was 6-1. I was like, oh my God. Maryland may in fact lose to Georgetown, which would have pretty much derailed their such a strong start, which we talked about last week with Kathy Reese. But hey, they finished that game really, really strong. JJ Soriano didn't play as well through the first 3 quarters. She finished with 13 saves. That was kind of the difference in not allowing them to score, and also the defense really stepped up. So another game, I wouldn't expect the St. Joe's game to be as close as it was. There was a ton of goals in that game. JJ Soriano made some great saves down the stretch. So at the end of the day, they come away with 4 wins. They get Princeton at home this weekend. Princeton's looked very strong to start the year as well. This would be a big win for Maryland to start 5-0 with 3 ranked wins. And then a couple of lighter opponents, Hofstra, and then James Madison is ranked at the moment before they kind of really get going in Big Ten play. But despite they avoided some really bad losses to Georgetown and St. Joe's. So they get it done, and they continue with their season.
Yeah. I think that this squad, I have a little bit of a take. I think they're good. Even though they're number 3 in the country, I don't know if they're as good as they've been the past couple of years. I don't think that means they can't do better in the tournament. I think they've gotten bad matchups a couple of these years. The talent, I actually watched the game at the end of the game against Georgetown because I also saw the score. It looked good. They just don't play as like fast and as offensively gifted, I think, as they have been in other years. So maybe that'll gel with the transfers with more time.
I think definitely more than last year, though. I think they're more offensively gifted than last year. But
definitely. Yeah, last year's team. That's a good point. But
I mean, this team's ranked 3rd in the country. They're very good.
They're very good.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. I haven't seen that spark yet. I think I expected them to blow the doors off of Georgetown and St. Joe's, and when they didn't, because they beat the doors off of Virginia and Syracuse, they really controlled those games. Maybe it was just like 2 games so close to each other, Wednesday, Friday game. They didn't quite get up for those games because they were 2 games on the road against teams that they, should manhandle. But at the end of the day, good teams win games. They won the game. Like that's the story to me.
It's a good point.
Anyway. I think that might be enough on sports here. Let's do a Terrific Terp and then get out of here unless anybody wants to talk wrestling or gymnastics.
I'm down to talk more baseball.
Mike.
And
this is around the horn. You've been muted. But
you a terrific
baseball is like baseball. Yeah, Mike's gonna start a new thing. As many runs as baseball scores, he gets to talk about them for that many minutes. But that might be
that idea. I love that idea.
That could be an interesting segment, as long as it's not how many runs they give up, because then my computer might run out of storage. Anyway, here we go. Terrific Terp, and this week's Terrific Terp is a name you probably will recognize from some previous drafts, but he's never been so lucky to actually win the Terrific Terp Award. And winning that award this week is none other than Jared Bernhardt. His story is certainly unique. He's one of the few people in the modern era to play football as well as another sport professionally. Bernhardt grew up in Florida to a father, a football coach. In high school, he played quarterback in the triple option style. He rushed for over 1,400 yards, and then he threw for half as many. That's a true triple option quarterback right there. But Bernhardt decided to play lacrosse in college, and he chose University of Maryland, a decision he actually made during his sophomore year of high school. At Maryland in 2017, he made an immediate impact. He started every game for the national championship winners, and he scored 20 goals. He continued each year to get better and better. He scored 40 goals as a sophomore, 51 as a junior. His senior year in 2020, he had 20 goals through 6 games before COVID halted the season. Coming back in 2021, he had one of the greatest seasons in lacrosse history. He won the Torton Award and scored 71 goals in 16 games, a Maryland record. But Jared was not done with college sports. He joined Ferris State as a quarterback. In fact, he'd committed to play quarterback at D2 Ferris State before COVID, but then stayed at Maryland for 1 more year, like I just mentioned. In high school, just as he did in high school, he did most of his damage on the ground for the Bulldogs. They went 14-0 that year and won the Division II title. Then he entered the NFL draft and he signed as an undrafted free agent with the Atlanta Falcons and ended up earning a spot on the 53-man roster. After 1 season in the NFL, he returned to the University of Maryland to be the director of player development for the men's lacrosse team. After 1 year with the Terps, he joined the BF Lions of the Canadian Football League, where he was on their practice squad for a year. Then finally, he went back to playing lacrosse, where he was signed by the Denver Outlaws of the PLL, and he signed there throughout the 2026 season. Bernhardt returned to the state of Florida to work as an assistant coach on the Florida women's lacrosse team. His entire career, from football to lacrosse and now coaching and still playing, is why he is this week's Terrific Terp.
Good stuff, B. We won't keep you any more longer than we have to. Already been a pretty hefty episode, but we appreciate you for listening. Actually, some fun topics to talk about this week, guys. Glad we got to cover them all. If you stayed with us this long, we appreciate you for listening. Keep following us on social media. Keep listening to the pod. We appreciate you. Have a good rest of your night. And if you're out east, avoid the snow. Have a good one.
You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast. After all these years, still the best in America.